Welcome back, everybody. Ready to dive into a topic that might just change the way you think about trading.
Oh, absolutely. Today, we're tackling something that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included.
We're going to be talking about the psychology of trading.
hmm
And you know how to get yourself into that winning mindset.
It's funny because, you hear so much about, strategies and technical analysis, but
Right, right.
really at the end of the day, it's all about what's going on up here.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes today's Deep Dive so interesting, right?
Oh,
We're looking at a YouTube video from Joel Zur. He's a trading psychologist.
he is, yeah.
And what I love about his approach is he doesn't sugarcoat things. He comes right out and says psychology is the most important thing.
He does. He does. And, a lot of people might be surprised to hear that, but he's very clear. He says, quote, "What is the most important piece of the puzzle for a trader? Trading psychology."
It's true. We spend so much time looking at those external factors like,
hmm
what's the Fed doing? What's the latest economic indicator?
Charts, charts.
Charts, exactly. But we kind of neglect that inner game.
We do. And the thing is, most traders, they know how important psychology is.
You'd think so, right?
You'd think so. But Joel points out something really interesting. He says, and I'm quoting here, most traders know that trading psychology is the most important piece of the puzzle, but most traders avoid taking the necessary steps.
So it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to actually, like, do it right.
To put it into practice, yeah, it's like anything else. We know we should eat healthy. We know we should exercise.
But that donut looks really good.
That donut looks really, really good. And it's kind of the same thing with trading psychology. We know we should work on it, but it's hard.
But why is it so hard? Like, what makes it so difficult to actually, like, I guess, look inside and do that work?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest reasons is that for many of us, trading gets associated with negative emotions, especially early on, if you have some bad experiences.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. You put your hard-earned money in, the market goes down, and suddenly you have that pit in your stomach.
And it's not just a feeling, it's a physiological response.
Yeah.
Joel describes it really well. He says, the head begins to record events associatively. For most people, this causes several types of reactions, from headaches to panic attacks.
Wow, so those early losses can really have a powerful impact on us, even if we don't realize it.
They do, they imprint on us. And it can create a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You expect things to go wrong, so you get tense, you make impulsive decisions, and you end up reinforcing those negative patterns.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. And Joel even compares it to trauma. He tells the story about a trader who kept opening and closing accounts at different brokerage firms
Just to avoid trading.
just to avoid trading. Can you imagine?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty extreme.
It is. He says, quote, "I compare this to the behavior of someone who has had a traumatic experience and avoids, consciously or unconsciously, behavior that will remind him of the trauma he went through. He would find an excuse in each investment house where he opened an account, and that's how he would avoid trading."
So it's not just about knowing about these patterns, it's about actually shifting them.
Absolutely. And that's where the whole concept of reprogramming comes in. Joel emphasizes this need to consciously change our perspective.
To look at the market in a new way.
Exactly. Instead of seeing it as this scary monster out to get our money.
Which I think a lot of us do, especially when we're starting out.
We tend to, yeah. But we need to understand that the market is neutral. It doesn't care about us. It doesn't care about our hopes, our fears, our account balances.
So we're essentially taking the emotion out of it. We're seeing it for what it is, just a system.
Right. And Joel has this really practical tip for doing this. He recommends starting with smaller position sizes.
Ooh, I like that. So it's like dipping your toes in the water before you jump in the deep end.
Exactly. It's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't start by running 26 miles on day one. You gradually increase your distance, you build up your confidence, you build up your stamina.
Makes sense. So in trading, if you gradually increase your exposure as you become more comfortable, you're essentially rewiring your brain.
You are. You're teaching it to respond more positively to the market's ups and downs. Joel says, quote, "Lowering your position in a smaller quantity of shares. Your mind begins to reprogram itself and begins to respond to the markets in a positive way."
It's almost like desensitizing yourself to those triggers that cause you to panic or make impulsive decisions.
Exactly. It's like proving to your brain, hey, trading doesn't have to be this scary, stressful thing.
It's funny because it's like that exposure therapy that you hear about in other areas.
It is. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
And it really highlights how powerful our subconscious reactions can be.
But are negative associations the only, I guess, mental block that we have to overcome?
That's a good question, because Joel actually talks about another big one: our deeply ingrained need to be right.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. I think we all struggle with that to some extent.
We do. We're conditioned from childhood to associate being right with success. Good grades, praise from our teachers, winning
It's like
games.
ingrained in us, right? We
Yeah,
want to be right in our relationships, our careers, and yeah, in our trading.
exactly. But here's the thing about trading. Being right all the time is neither realistic nor necessary for success. And that's where this need to be right can actually sabotage us because, like Joel points out, people are wired to lose money. People are used to receiving rewards for good deeds, and schools reinforce this by giving grades.
Hmm. So we're kind of set up to think that being right is the only way to win.
In a lot of ways, yes. And that can really mess with our heads when it comes to trading.
So how do we break free from that? Like, how do we become comfortable with being wrong sometimes?
That's where things get really interesting. Because good traders actually understand that being wrong is part of the game. Yeah. In fact, most professional traders are often wrong more than they're right.
That's wild. So it's not about trying to avoid losses altogether. It's about managing them effectively.
Exactly. It's about letting your winners run and cutting your losses short. As Joel puts it, quote, most professional traders are right less than 50% of the time. The last thing that worries professional traders is how to be right.
It's such a different way of thinking,
It is. It goes against everything we've been taught.
but it makes sense when you think about it. It's not about winning every single trade. It's about the overall picture.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Imagine a professional trader has a strategy where they're aiming for a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 2. So they're willing to risk $1 to potentially gain $2.
Okay, I'm following.
Now, they might have a string of, let's say, 5 losing trades in a row, each one costing them $1.
So they're down $5.
They are, but their 6th trade is a winner, and it nets them $10.
So they're still ahead.
Exactly. Even though they were wrong 5 out of 6 times, they still end up profitable.
That's amazing. It really highlights how important it is to detach from that need to be right on every single trade.
Absolutely. It's about focusing on the process, on executing your strategy, and letting the results play out over time. Joel emphasizes this point. He says, quote, they stop looking for justice in every deal. You made a decision, you saw things on the chart, made a decision, execute.
So we've identified two big psychological barriers,
Mhm.
negative associations and the need to be right.
Yes, and the million-dollar question is, how do we overcome these?
Exactly. What are Joel's practical tips for getting past these hurdles?
Well, he has a two-pronged approach, which I think is really effective. First, manage those negative emotions through gradual exposure. Start small, build your confidence, slowly increase your position sizes as you get more comfortable.
It's like building that mental muscle, right, to handle the ups and downs of the market.
Absolutely. And the second tip, detach from that need to be right on every trade. Focus on executing your strategy, managing your risk, and letting the results play out over time. It's not about winning every battle, it's about winning the war.
This is incredibly empowering. It means that we have the power to change our mindset, to approach trading in a more objective and ultimately more profitable way.
It does. It takes work, but it's definitely possible.
But I'm curious, are there other practical tools or techniques that traders can use to, really strengthen their mental game?
Oh, absolutely. And one thing that really stood out to me in the video was Joel's emphasis on having a clear trading plan. Define your entry and exit points before you enter a trade.
So you're not making decisions in the heat of the moment. You've already thought it through.
Exactly. It takes emotion out of the equation. It's like having a roadmap before you set out on a journey. You know where you're going, you know how you're going to get there.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, and it helps you manage your risk effectively. Predetermine your maximum loss on a trade, so you're less likely to hold on to a losing position out of hope or fear. It's like setting up those guardrails to prevent yourself from veering off course.
That's a great way to think about it.
Mm.
But even with a plan, sometimes emotions can run high during a trade, especially when things aren't going your way.
Oh, tell me about it. I've been there. Your hard-earned money's on the line, the market starts moving against you, your heart's racing, palms are sweaty.
It's hard to stay calm and rational in those moments.
It is. It takes practice. And that's where tools like mindfulness and meditation can be incredibly helpful.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about having a trading plan, but it's also about having a plan for managing your emotional state during a trade.
Exactly. It all ties back into that idea of reprogramming our brains. Mindfulness can train us to observe those emotional reactions without judgment, so we can respond to those market fluctuations with more calm and objectivity.
Like building that mental muscle to withstand the inevitable ups and downs.
Exactly. But sometimes, even with all the tools and techniques, it's important to know when to step away from the market entirely.
You mean like take a break?
Exactly. Joel actually talks about the dangers of overtrading and how it can lead to burnout and poor decision making. Trading requires focus, it requires discipline. And if you're constantly glued to the screen, you're more likely to make those impulsive or emotional decisions.
So taking breaks is actually crucial for success.
It is. It's like anything else in life. You need to recharge, you need to refocus in order to perform at your best. Joel recommends setting limits on your trading time each day, taking regular breaks to clear your head.
It reminds us that trading is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. You need to pace yourself. You need to take care of your mental and emotional well-being if you want to stay in the game for the long haul.
As we're talking about all of this, I'm realizing how much these principles apply to other areas of life as well. It's not just about trading. It's about developing a resilient mindset that can help us navigate any challenging situation.
That's a great observation. The ability to manage risk, control our emotions, detach from that need to be right. Those are valuable skills that can benefit us in all aspects of life.
I'm thinking about things like relationships, career decisions, even just dealing with everyday stressors. Imagine approaching those situations with the same calm and objectivity that we've been talking about. It could be a game changer.
It could be. It's about developing that inner strength and resilience to weather any storm.
So, in a way, learning about trading psychology is like a masterclass in personal growth.
I couldn't agree more. It's a journey of self-discovery and self-mastery.
And it's a journey that never really ends, right?
Joel reminds us that even experienced traders struggle with these psychological hurdles. But overcoming them is possible. He says, quote, I have seen traders go from big losses to stable success after finding the solution to these two mental barriers, and over time, so can you.
That's a great reminder that we're all in this together. We all have mental biases. We all have emotional baggage that we bring to the table. But with the right tools and the right mindset, we can learn to trade effectively and to live our lives more fully.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question, inspired by Joel's advice. If successful trading is less about being right and more about managing risk and emotions, what are some other areas of life where this mindset could be beneficial?
That's a great question. It really makes you think about how we can apply these principles beyond the world of trading. It's a reminder that the lessons we learn in the market can have a profound impact on our overall well-being and our success in life.
I love that. This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
It has. I've really enjoyed it.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of trading psychology valuable and empowering. Remember, the tools and techniques we've discussed can be applied not just to trading, but to all aspects of your life. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence in everything you do. We'll be right back after a quick break to continue our deep dive into the psychology of trading.
And one thing that Joel talked about that I think is really interesting is this idea of having a clear trading plan.
So you mean like writing everything down?
Yeah, exactly. Like, defining your entry points, your exit points before you even enter a trade.
Oh, I see. So you're not making decisions in the heat of the moment.
Exactly. You've already thought it through. You've got a plan. It takes the emotion out of the equation.
That makes sense. It's kind of like, having a roadmap before you set out on a journey, right?
Exactly. You know where you're going. You know how you're going to get there.
I like that analogy.
And it also helps you to manage your risk effectively. Like, you predetermine your maximum loss on a trade, so you're less likely to hold on to that losing position just out of, hope or fear.
It's like setting up those guardrails to prevent yourself from, going off the road.
Exactly. But, even with a plan, even with all the best intentions, sometimes emotions can run high during a trade, especially when things aren't going your way.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there. You see your hard-earned money on the line, the market starts moving against you, and suddenly
Your heart's racing, yeah.
heart's racing, palms are sweaty, you can't think straight.
It's hard to stay rational, yeah.
It's tough. So how do you deal with that?
Well, it takes practice, right? And that's where tools like mindfulness and meditation can be really helpful.
Oh, that's interesting. So you mean it's not just about having a plan for your trading, it's also about having a plan for managing your emotional state during a trade.
Exactly. And it all ties back into that idea of, reprogramming our brains that we talked about earlier. Mindfulness can help us to observe those emotional reactions without judgment, right? So we can respond to those market fluctuations with more calm and objectivity.
It's about building that mental muscle to withstand those inevitable ups and downs.
Exactly. But, and this is important, sometimes even with all the tools and techniques, you just got to know when to step away from the market completely.
You mean like take a break?
Take a break, yeah. Joel actually warns about the dangers of overtrading and how it can lead to burnout. Poor decision making. Trading requires focus, it requires discipline. If you're constantly glued to that screen, you're more likely to make those impulsive emotional decisions.
So taking breaks is actually a key part of being successful.
It is. It's like anything else, right? You need to recharge, you need to refocus to perform at your best.
Makes sense.
Joel recommends, setting limits on your treating time each day, taking regular breaks, clearing your head, coming back refreshed.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. You got to pace yourself. You got to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, if you want to stay in the game for the long haul. And, as we're talking about all of this, I'm realizing how much these principles apply to, other areas of life, too. It's not just about trading.
Right. Like it's about developing that resilient mindset that can help you navigate any challenging situation, really.
Absolutely. That ability to manage risk, control your emotions, detach from that need to be right. Those are valuable skills no matter what you're doing.
It's true. I'm thinking about things like, relationships, career decisions, even just,
Mhm.
dealing with everyday stressors.
Yeah,
Imagine approaching those situations with that same calm and objectivity.
I
It's
know.
a game changer.
Absolutely. It's about developing that inner strength, that resilience to weather any storm.
So in a way, learning about trading psychology is kind of like, a masterclass in personal growth.
It is. Couldn't agree more. It's a journey of self-discovery, self-mastery.
And it's a journey that never really ends.
Never ends, no. But Joel reminds us that even experienced traders, they struggle with these psychological hurdles. But overcoming them, it's possible. He says, quote, I have seen traders go from big losses to stable success after finding the solution to these two mental barriers. And over time, so can you.
It's inspiring to hear that because it means we're all in this together, right?
We are.
We all have those mental biases, those emotional baggage that we bring to the table. But with the right tools, the right mindset, we can learn to not just trade effectively, but also just live our lives more fully.
I think that's a great point.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question, inspired by Joel's advice. If successful trading is less about being right and more about managing those risks and emotions, what are some other areas of life where this mindset could be beneficial?
That's a good question. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think about how you can apply these principles beyond the world of trading. It's a reminder that, those lessons that we learn in the market, they can have a profound impact on our overall well-being and our success in life.
Yeah. Well said. This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
It really has. I've enjoyed it.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of trading psychology valuable and empowering. Remember, the tools and techniques we discussed today can be applied not just to trading, but to all aspects of your life. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence in everything you do. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a fascinating topic that's sure to expand your mind and inspire you to reach your full potential. Until then, happy trading and happy living. It's like when you start thinking about trading as like this reflection of yourself, it's kind of wild how those skills that you build in the market, they can really impact your whole life.
It is, yeah. It's like trading becomes this little microcosm of, how you deal with risk and manage your emotions, how you make decisions when things get tough.
It's true. And I think that's what's so fascinating about Joel Zur's approach is like he's giving us this masterclass, not just in trading, but in life.
Totally agree. It's not even just about, making money. It's about understanding people, understanding yourself, and using that to become, well, a better person.
Absolutely. And that journey, it doesn't just stop when the market closes, right?
Yeah.
Like Joel emphasizes this idea that you can always keep growing, both as a trader and a person.
Right. It's like this constant process. You're always learning, adapting, refining how you approach things.
It's that commitment to lifelong learning, which applies to, everything, not just trading.
Exactly.
So for our listeners who are out there, ready to put these insights into action, what are the key takeaways that they can start using like today?
Well, the first thing is you got to realize that trading psychology, it's not some fluffy extra, it's the foundation.
It's not just about the charts and the indicators. It's about mastering your own mind.
Exactly. And once you get that, you can start using those practical tips we talked about. Gradual exposure, letting go of the need to be right every time, having a solid plan, and managing those emotions.
And of course, taking care of yourself. Getting those breaks, practicing mindfulness, keeping that balance in your life.
Right. Treating it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You have to be in it for the long haul, and that means taking care of yourself mentally and physically.
Well said. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to thank you for sharing your insights with us. It's been a really great conversation.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of trading psychology valuable and empowering. Remember, the tools and techniques we talked about today, they can be applied not just to trading, but to every part of your life. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence in everything you do. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until then, happy trading and happy living.